What's going on, guys? Welcome to Accio Code, and this is a brand new tutorial series that we are starting today. This tutorial, as you can probably tell from the screen, is about D3, and D3 is essentially data-driven documents. Now, to explain D3, it's not a JavaScript, well, it is a JavaScript library, but it's not its own programming language. It's just a library attached to JavaScript that basically and heavily relies on the DOM and relies on SVG in order to create these dynamic images. And essentially what it does is you can enter in data, or you can, hand determine what the data is, and it will display on your web browser, in your web page, an actual chart or a graph or a pie chart or whatever it is, or it's any kind of visual representation of data. So as you can see here, I'm just scrolling through some of the default things that we're going to go through in this beginner's course for D3JS. I've been using this a lot over the past couple of months. It's been quite handy. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with it. If you know the basic fundamentals. Now, I have to say that the learning curve is a little bit on D3JS because there's all different variations that people have done, all these different libraries. There's a C3 library, there's a D3 plus library, all kinds of things. But the basics in this tutorial we're going to cover are just the fundamentals of D3JS. Now, you can get this from GitHub. You can also go through to their website, d3js.org, and get the code, of course, as you saw below. They also have examples on here. You can see lots of things, like here you have box plots or whisker plots, as they call them, calendar views, various different examples. You have a population pyramid. So let's just look at one of them. So here's a population pyramid, and it's just basically a graph or a chart that shows in a bar chart the population increase or decreases throughout the ages. And then they also, happily enough, give you some CSS and style and HTML and JavaScript code on how they actually built this chart. So you can kind of get a lot of detail on how D3 works. However, as you see, it's a lot of stuff in here, and kind of the way that D3 is written, you can't, a lot of shortcuts that you may be used to, you kind of can't get around them. There's other people who are working on getting around some of these shortcuts. Like I said, there's some other libraries, in particular C3.js, that make making some of these graphs a little bit easier. But just in general, it's good to learn the basics of how things actually work instead of trying to do the shortcuts first. Now here you see a pretty cool thing, Epic is cyclic gearing, and this is another thing that you can do, is you can make an animated representation. And here's planets, and you can change it to the sun. So this is how this is how things revolve around in the galaxy, and it's pretty, using gears. It's a pretty innovative kind of tutorial or kind of example they have here, and you can see again the code. Now you will need, as you can see here, there's a lot of math going on here, so we will touch that in the later videos. But again, I don't want you guys, especially if you're beginners to this, to get overwhelmed and go, oh my god, I gotta know pi and sine and cosine. Yeah, eventually, if you want to make some really cool stuff. But again, what we're going to do is just make some very simple, basic things to start out with and get you a little bit further on into some of these really cool applications that you can build with D3JS. So if you go to our repository, and our repository is linked in our website, it should be linked in this video or on the web page that you may be watching this on. You'll be able to pull down our repo. What you want to do when you pull it down, you want to run npm install. And if you guys aren't familiar with that, let's clear this out here so we can show you guys. What you'd want to do is run, well, first, of course, I guess I'll explain it in case people have never come to this before, because I know when I was starting out, I hate it when I watch a tutorial or read a tutorial and they don't start from the very, very, very beginning, and they assume that I already know all this stuff. So I know for you beginners out there, that's frustrating sometimes, so I'm going to show you how to do it. So First thing you would want to do is you want to go to our GitHub repo and you'd want to clone our repo. And if you need detailed information on this, check out our tools tutorial. We go over GitHub and how to clone repos in there. But essentially what you do is you choose a folder on your machine that you want, git clone, and then copy and paste the actual address, which we're going to do right now, into your browser. And the address, well, actually I'll just type it out, is https github.com/colorfest/d3js, and that's the repo for all you guys who are following along with us. If you run that in your terminal window, it'll get all the files, and you'll want to do a pull and get all the files down. Now once you've gotten all the files, you want to run npm install so you can install all the node libraries that we have in that repo. It'll pull down everything you need. Now this may take a long time to run because there are quite a few libraries that we are going to be using in here, and I'm getting you guys started up initially. But you can see here I've got browser sync and delete, a lot of gulp gulp task that we're going to be running with this. And we're also going to be doing a Bower install, which is going to get you D3 fast click Foundation. We're going to use Foundation instead of Twitter Bootstrap in this one, just because I like to switch it up a little bit. Gulp, jQuery cookie, modernize, all that stuff. You'll be able to pull that down. Now, once you've done that, of course, you're going to run Bower install, and Bower install will do the same thing. It'll install all of your information on there. By the way, for those of you who are wondering, this video tutorial, just because I find it a lot easier when I'm doing packages like this, I am using WebStorm. WebStorm is probably the best IDE out right now. It does cost a little bit of money. It's not free like Sublime Text and brackets that I've used in other tutorials, but it is definitely one of the best programs you can use to write code, especially if you're doing JavaScript and stuff like this. So I am using WebStorm right now. There's also a PHP Storm and basically the JetBrains family of editors. So that's what I'm using here. And what it comes with is a couple of cool things. And I guess we'll go through this right now. You have your directory, of course, here, just like most other editors. You have all your files listed here, but it also comes up with some of these tabs on the side. And these tabs allow you to see things like to run gulp. So I'm just shrinking this down so you guys can see here. So you have these tabs on the side where you can click on this one, and it'll have all your gulp tasks here that you can run by either double clicking on them or clicking on them and restarting them. Yeah, like here's a SAS task that I have in here, and it'll just run the SAS task if you double click on it. And you know, it's a fun thing. Is you know, it's a lot, makes it a lot easier. You don't have to type it out. It's a little bit of a shortcut that you get with WebStorm, instead of having to write all of those things out as we typically tend to do when we are using the terminal window. And then this is just the main body, of course, here where we'll be doing all of our coding. So briefly to explain how this is set up, we have a JavaScript folder here that has a general folder, and this is where we're going to start out with a file called app.js, app.js. Our gulp file has a few tasks running in it, including a watch task. Right now, we're just going to be watching for JavaScript files, and that is going to run the scripts, which the scripts will then build out a file called d3js tutorial.js in our JavaScript folder. And then that is what we're using here. As you can see, I've got all the libraries compiled up, the Bower components, all of the downloads we got from there, including jQuery, Foundation, Modernizer, and of course, the most important one is the D3 library. And then lastly, of course, our D3JS tutorial concatenated file. So you're probably going, KC, wow, that's a lot of stuff there. Yeah, it is. But, you know, it's a lot of setup sometimes. There's lots of packages that automatically do this, like Yeoman and stuff, that'll set it up for you automatically. But again, it's good to get familiar with how this stuff actually works, because when you get some of those other pre-made packages, there's a ton of stuff in there, and it can be overwhelming if you're not used to using it. So here's our HTML page to get started today. And basically here we just have a script that is running start. So we're doing like old school JavaScript here. and because we're not going to be using Angular in this particular tutorial series because we're just showing you the basics. But you're going to have script here, and you're going to call to a function called start. And of course, that start function is in our app.js file. So you see in general.js, general apps.js, we have a start function, and in that start function, we have D3. Now, you'll notice here, this is how we have D3 written. You start out by writing D3 and dot select, and we're choosing the body. Now, select body means we're choosing the body tag in our HTML file. So that's what D3 will do, is it'll look for the body tag in your HTML file in the DOM, because it does, basically D3 does, as I said before, DOM manipulation. So it looks for the body tag, and then what I'm telling it to do here, you follow that with a dot, and it says append P. So it's appending a paragraph tag into the body. Now, of course, you don't see this here because it's not visible because it's appending it to the body, but we're appending that to the body here. And then in that paragraph tag, we are using .text, which will write out text to the screen. And we just made a string here that's very simple that says load text with d3.js today. And if we go and look at our page, let's pull that back over here. Our first tab here, you can see load text with D3JS, load text with D3JS today. If I inspect the element, you will then be able to see here, yes, you can tell it's written out and loaded up the D3JS on the screen here. Now, I'm also using I should probably tell you guys this before you get too confused, because I don't think we've used it before. We are using another library with Bower called, or not with Bower, with Gulp. And that task is the browser sync task. So we've covered this in our Gulp tutorial. So if you're not familiar with how to use browser sync, check out the Gulp tutorial. I just wanted to explain that to you guys because you see that here in the code that when we were looking at the source, that you see the browser sync going on here. I know some of you may not have seen that before, so that's what's going on. That basically runs a Fox server that our website can perform on. Whew, lots to explain here. Anyway, getting back to the basics here, you see here the paragraph tag that we put in our JavaScript file is appended to the body tag. It's loaded up in here, and we're all set to go. Now, I want to show you guys one other thing before we end this introduction video. And what I want to show you guys in here is you can console out, let's console log out D3 itself. And when you do this, let's go back to the page and refresh it. When you console log out D3, it'll give you, let's shrink this up here. So you can see it's looking for D3. It'll show you the object that D3 is. And there is a ton of stuff in here, obviously. So if you ever really need to know how much and what you can do with D3, there's a ton of stuff, and just goes on and on of the functions and the objects and everything else that are involved with running D3. Again, it's a library, it's not a coding language, and this is the object D3. This is the D3 object itself, and all of the things that go along with it. So, and also the version number, behavior, all that other stuff. So that's it for this introductory video into D3JS. Now, I'll be doing videos over the next couple of days where we'll be diving a little bit deeper into D3JS. Again, this is a beginner's tutorial series. We're going to go to slightly intermediate with some examples that will walk you guys through and show you how to build some decent stuff in D3JS, leading on to much cooler stuff later on. So until then, if you like this video, definitely share it, like it, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. We appreciate it very much. And we will see you guys next time for more Accio Code. Have a good afternoon.